Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and this podcast is for you if you are an author, if you're an entrepreneur. I'm going to suggest that you're an author as well, because you may have a solo book out, you may have a compilation book out, but I can pretty much guarantee if you're in business, you've got some form of blog, or if not a blog, you've got social media posts going out, haven't you? What's that if it's not published work? So I'm here to blow the boundaries on what we consider to be an author. And also then a stage. What do you consider a stage? Because some of the people we've interviewed have been on really big stages like TEDx and even beyond that. But some of them are doing podcasts. And you know what? That is a stage. So if you can have a one-on-one conversation with somebody, you can be on a podcast, you will be from page to stage. So I think we've probably just about covered everybody in that front. Welcome. Okay. Now, today I have the joy and privilege of introducing you to a lovely gentleman by the name of Travis Lee. Now, Travis and I met through a networking meeting. I could tell you lots of things about Travis, but you know what? He knows himself better than I do. So I'm going to handball this one to you, Travis. Tell us a bit about who you are and how you came to be at this point in life.
Thank you for having me, Wendy. I started off in business at a really young age. I didn't really step into it until my early 20s, and I came from a law enforcement background, and on the side I had more of a hobby than a business. And I started to really step into it, and I ran a fitness business, and I've always been in a people-facing business. But when I started to step into it and embrace entrepreneurship, I found that there wasn't a lot of support as far as mental health for just dealing with all of the stress of changing into this new role and really dealing with all of the everyday operations of just being an entrepreneur running a business. And I little by little started to educate myself and really look into what it would take to be that kind of support and offer that support for others. And that's what I've been focusing on here the last couple of years, just really getting more help for entrepreneurs and bringing us together to support each other's mental health.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's quite a different way of being, of thinking, of doing, being in a corporate environment and being an entrepreneur. And if you're in the early stages when you're like a solopreneur, as you said, it can be very lonely. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so you have a book out, don't you? Can you tell us a bit about your book?
Yes, so I just had my book published. Now it's been just over a month. It's titled Victory and Vulnerability, and it really just poured my heart out about what I felt as an entrepreneur stepping into a new role and really taking up the reins and just figuring it out. And I really explored that mindset and what it's like to not only call yourself an entrepreneur, but to really think like one and live that lifestyle, and what it's like as well, seeing it from the outside, someone that hasn't owned a business before. They usually see someone that's successful and they see a lot of luxury a lot of the times because that's what's shown in the media. But I really took the time to dive into the nitty-gritty and really just poured it all out there, because I feel like the only way that we're going to be able to connect each other and provide a support system is to just be honest about it. And it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
And it was really a way for me to hold myself accountable to my own story, because I've been holding on to these emotions and these struggles for so long that it was actually empowering to just let it go. And the pages just kind of told a story, even if all of it wasn't my direct story. I feel like I was able to speak for a lot of other people as well.
Mm, right. Thank you, because as I said, it is actually a very different way of being. And as you point out, the way that entrepreneurship is often lauded in the media, these self-made people who've made it overnight, and you go, I made it overnight. They've come to the media attention overnight, but you haven't seen the years of hard graft that have gone into that explosion moment. It is a very different way of thinking about things, and so I'm absolutely agree with you. I think that's a really good, really necessary peek behind the curtain. Yeah, cool. So is that what prompted you to start writing, that when you went into being an entrepreneur and discovered that it wasn't all the sunshine and roses that it's portrayed to be?
Yes, it was actually more of just a coping mechanism. It was something that I had that was there for me. I could just take a break and start writing down what I was feeling. And as I started to talk to more entrepreneurs and really get down to the bottom of why it is I was feeling that way, I realized that what I was feeling was normal. And I I sat on those pages for so long. And finally, after really talking to more people and doing what I talked about in my book and being vulnerable and just opening up, I found it really empowering to just let it go and put it out there into the world.
Mm. So I'm wondering, did you journal for a long time prior to, I mean, when you were still in a corporate setting? Did you journal then as well?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was really important for me. I've tried other methods of balancing myself out and really understanding what it is I'm going through, what it is I'm thinking. And I found that it always helped me to just stay grounded and to be self-observant and understand myself so that I can serve other people.
So did you do much writing as a child?
Yes, I actually loved writing as a child. It was so fun for me to just take a story or even something that I was struggling with as a child. I used it as a coping mechanism when I was younger as well, because it was a way to escape from my circumstances, and it was a way for me to feel like someone was hearing me, even if no one read it.
Mm.
And often I would throw it away, or if I was feeling hurt or angry or any emotion that I just couldn't deal with, I didn't have the language, I would just scribble it all out and toss it, or just get rid of it. And it was this empowering, almost like a ritual, to just let it go, and
Yeah.
I don't have to hold on to it anymore.
Brilliant, brilliant. I mean, and you were doing that from a young age. I think that is so good, because so many of us have, as you say, held on to all this stuff. And if we hold it in our minds, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. There's a phrase in English, sorry, in British English, which means it grows arms and legs. I don't know if you're familiar with that. If you don't
Yes.
if you don't actually get it out on paper, it can get bigger and bigger. Whereas if you get it out on paper, you almost put a box around, well, you put a sheet covering around it, and it's finite. And as you say, then you can toss it in the bin, you can burn it, whatever you want to ritually release it. Love it. And you were doing that naturally as a child. Absolutely fabulous. Well done, you. Well done, you. Did you do any creative writing over and above the journaling to let it go?
Yes, I found myself writing, especially in my career, about a lot of the experiences that I was seeing, because there was a lot of things that I saw and that I experienced throughout my career and even before that, that in my mind, I'm like, there's no way anyone has ever experienced this, or no one's going to believe me. But I have to write this down. I have to remember this. And
Mm.
it was almost a way to just connect myself to what I was feeling. I always had this fear of, I'm going to forget this, or I'm going to remember this in a way that I don't want to.
Okay.
And I need to see the positives, and I need to have a tangible memory of this situation so that I can go back and analyze it on a different day.
Right. Okay. So again, that was you doing the journaling stuff, wasn't it? So that you got out
Yeah.
your feelings, you got out the situation that happened, what you felt about it, and possibly what you learned from it as well.
Yes, and I was able to take that, especially with my career. It's not something I've published yet, but I put together the stories of other officers and made a book out of these experiences
Yeah.
to kind of validate that everyday life and really dive into what's behind the scenes,
Mm.
because most people aren't really willing to talk about it. And most of the things that I've worked on as far as professional writing have just been stories really that either have happened to me, or that I've had the pleasure of meeting people and experiencing. And I just, the words flew out of me and onto a page, and it was just a natural thing. But I've held on to them for so long that I'm finally starting to actually get into the publishing and put things out into the world.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Because those stories are important. People will relate to them because, as you said, these are particularly some of the ones that you've come across when you were doing your law enforcement stuff. Nobody talks about those things, and obviously, I'm sure you've done composites rather than individuals because obviously you don't
Yes.
want to pass on anything confidential. But it's those real life stories that a lot of us don't ever experience, thankfully. But to hear what people go through, and as you say, the wisdom that can be gained from that is so valuable, so valuable. Thank you, thank you. Tell me about your speaking, because you talk about the, well, okay, backtrack. Did the speaking come before the writing? Did the writing come before the speaking?
I would say, as far as published goes, the speaking came before the writing.
Okay.
As far as professionally,
Yeah.
um, my speaking didn't always tie into the work I do now.
Okay.
I've had multiple opportunities to speak just to groups of people and to different organizations, but it wasn't something that I really pursued. The opportunities just came to me.
Right.
So
Okay. And were you talking about the mental health sphere in those situations as well?
no, it was completely different actually. So
Ooh.
it's interesting to really see where I've progressed to now. I started off speaking to fellow entrepreneurs still, but about business growth and personal development, and really developing a mindset that is conducive to being able to sustain a business. And now, as I've experienced and really stepped into my purpose, I've been able to use my speaking to further my message.
Right. Okay. Because I know that that's very often also people who have come out of a corporate situation. I heard somebody describe them once as corporate refugees. That's an interesting one. She had been involved in doing a fair amount of training and development of peers and her reports. Yes, some people who were reported to her, but she was involved in a wider training remit. So there was also a speaking opportunity. And some people don't consider that training is a speaking situation. Well, it is, isn't it? Training, facilitation. So that's another element as well. Did you have any of that in on your plate when you were working in a corporate?
Yes, and it wasn't really presented as a speaking opportunity. Like you said, it was one of those things where it's just like, oh, I have to talk about this, and
Yeah.
I have to give a lecture. That's what it almost feels like sometimes, um, because you don't really have the opportunity to engage and communicate with the audience on their personal level. You're just being informative,
Right.
or you have a goal to reach, and it's very linear. Whereas natural public speaking is more of a connection and a deep communication.
It's amazing, though, actually, even given a brief of go forth and lecture, if you know what you're doing, you can really connect with the audience so that they jolly well do remember it in a way far more than your seniors would ever have expected. But you're not back in that situation now, so that's fine. Okay, so we've got the speaking came before the officially published work, and now that you're doing the two in tandem, but we understand that writing has been an important part of life from a wee lad. Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you now is, what are you working on at the moment? What's percolating? Because your book came out 2 months ago. Can we have a date on it? Because just in case people are watching this at another time.
Yes, it came out July 14th.
July 14th, 2024.
Yes.
Love it. Okay. And remind us of the name of it, because we're going to make sure all this information's in the show notes, folks.
It is Victory in Vulnerability.
Victory and Vulnerability. Beautiful. And that's available. What formats have you got it on?
It's available on Amazon in the Kindle form and paperback.
Okay. Are you planning on doing an audio version as well?
Yes, I'm working on that right now.
Oh, great, great. Because that's the thing these days, isn't it? We've got multimedia ways of consuming content. And some people are great readers. And I'm finding more and more that people are preferring to listen to things while they're doing other things. I
Right.
confess that I'm one of them. Plug me in when I'm doing the dishes, or if I'm out for a walk or something. Idle time. If you're driving, I've usually got an audio book on, because it's something that I can listen to and take in, even if it's not entirely listening consciously. I'm listening subconsciously as well if I'm suddenly distracted by something with the driving. Yeah. So you're doing an audiobook as well. That's fabulous. Do you have a target date for the audio version?
No, I haven't set a date on that yet. I've been more focused on the business side of things, and really solidifying my work as a coach as well, and utilizing that in my speaking.
So is you have something you're working on from a coach perspective? Have you got a program or something on the back of this book that the book is promoting?
Yes, so I'll be starting my Empowered Legacy Entrepreneur program that dives into, again, that mindset and really breaking through those mental health challenges and embracing them to be able to lead the next generations, and use those stories to connect with not only fellow entrepreneurs, but target networks and the people that entrepreneurs are serving.
Right. Okay. So who's your ideal reader and audience?
Seasoned entrepreneurs that have been struggling with mental health, either silently or really didn't understand what was going on, even though they were already struggling, and needed either the language or someone to just give them that space to be comfortable and evaluate whether they actually are struggling with their mental health.
Okay. Yeah. It's getting better, but there is still a fair amount of stigma attached to mental unhealth, isn't there?
Yes, it's one of those things where as entrepreneurs we can be kind of closed off sometimes, when it comes to sharing the bad times and the struggles because of this constant race to appear like we're successful and to look nice on social media. But in reality, there's more power in sharing those struggles and being able to use that to uplift the next generation so that they don't have to feel so alone and they don't have to feel like they're struggling out on this island and not being heard.
Yeah, because as we've said already, the media, be it social or what would you call it, official media, does have the sort of saccharine version, isn't it? I mean, it's the classic Instagram picture. How many times has that photo been taken before you got exactly the one you wanted, or you've airbrushed it or something? But you're right, we as a buying audience buy from people we know, like, and trust. It's a cliche, but it's true. And if we see people who are so above us that they don't seem relatable to, and yet, as you pointed out, when you've got the courage to be vulnerable, oh flip, well, if he can have an off day, well, maybe I'm not so bad after all. How do your off days then, mate? Introduction. You're more relatable. Yeah. So you've got a coaching program. Did you say that's about to start?
Yes, that'll be starting this upcoming week.
Can you give us a date?
Yes. So it'll be launching on the 24th of this month.
24th of July. Okay.
Yes.
So realistically, I think this podcast is going to go out after that date. Is this a program that has to be started all at once, or is it one that people can drip into?
No, they can, it's one-on-one, so they can come in at any time, and it's completely adaptable. It's all virtual, so it's customized to that person.
Just because that's your launch date, it doesn't mean to say that if you miss the 24th of July, tough. No, you can be in touch with Travis and he'll sort you out. Brilliant. Audience, we're going to have all the information in the show notes. Now, these show notes are dynamic. So when I have guests who come back to me and go, oh, by the way, I've put out a new book, I've got a new program, something has developed, we will change those show notes, so keep an eye on them. And I also then will put out a quick social post going, do you remember that brilliant conversation I had with Travis? I'll go back and check it out because we've got a new link on there. XYZ's happened since then. So that's where we do that. Okay, so we've got that you've been journaling from a young age. Were you ever taught to journal, or was that just something that you developed as your own self preservation, really? Yeah.
I really developed it on my own. I felt a lot of isolation as a kid, and I was really forced to kind of fend for myself. And so between artwork and visual art, it was something that I could just go hide away and just journal, and everything else didn't really matter. It was just myself and my thoughts, and it was really a way for me to express in a way that I didn't have language for all of the things that I was feeling and all of the pain I was feeling. And it made me feel better, even if no one was hearing it and no one was really helping me. It was like I was self-soothing and really kind of coddling myself.
Yeah, love it. And did you find the art stuff as well? Because I find very often that if we've had traumatic experiences very early in life, i.e. before the age of about 18 months, we didn't developmentally have the language to be able to process it anyway. And that's where art stuff comes in incredibly helpfully, because, well, journaling's all good and well, but if I didn't have the language there at the time, how can I express what was going on? Whereas give me some even crayon like that an 18-month-old and under would have done. There's that, as you know, we record on the subconscious level everything that happens. And if we didn't have the language at the time, but we had the visual image, that can be worked through with artwork as well. So I'm loving the fact that you're creative in so many ways. Beautiful. Have you done the book cover yourself?
Yes, it's a picture. It's not an illustration, but it's still something that I'm very intentional about what I want to feel and what I want others to feel from interacting with something that I've worked on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing haphazard about it. It's all intentional. Love that, Travis. Thank you. Thank you. So we've discovered that you've been journaling since you were quite young. The recent official publication, your solo book, which got published in July 2024, was prompted by the shift from corporate to the entrepreneurial world and seeing how there was such a disconnect in terms of the thinking, the being, and you wanted to show that difference to maybe the corporate world and those who are starting out, and giving the language for those existing entrepreneurs who may be going, why is this so hard? Yeah, got it. Where can we find you in terms of listening to you? You've got this podcast today. Where else can we access you talking about your wonderful work?
So I'm actually working on putting together my YouTube channel as well. And I am looking at starting my own web series. So that'll be something that I'll be working on in the future. But right now I'm really focused on podcasts and opening up conversations with other entrepreneurs and really getting those reps in and getting really comfortable in this new journey I've started. So a lot of it will be just podcasts and webinars for now.
Love it. And I'm assuming that's because of the networking meeting that we've met through. Are you also doing open to virtual summits and things?
Yes, that's been something I've looked at, and especially collaborating with other speakers as well, because there's honestly so much to be able to learn from and really just connect on a different level with other speakers that are going through the similar things and in the same circles. It's really great to be able to connect and kind of feed off of each other.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is speakers are also entrepreneurs. Very few of us are ever employed by somebody else, because the point is, yes, if you're keynoting, yes, you're being paid by somebody, but yes, still your own boss. You decide whether or not you want to take that. In effect, it's a contract. So yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you. So audience, there are various places you can find Travis. We will put in the show notes a link to his book. We will also put in, would you like this, Travis? I haven't asked you ahead of time, a link to your Event Raptor directory, which shows the other places that you've been on. So if anybody here watching this is going, do you know what? I'm looking for a speaker, we can point you in the direction of Travis. Let me know, Travis. I'm sorry I've sprung that on you. If you'd like me to, we can add that into the show notes. Otherwise, we'll leave that out. And we can
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. So then we're looking then at, how do you embody your work, your words, your written words, when you take them from page to stage?
That's a really great question. For me, I've really just had to think about, what was I trying to portray in those words. And honestly, my publishing, that was really just the tip of the iceberg. And so for me, it's still something that I'm living. And so I'm able to take that and say, okay, what are other people struggling with? And go out and engage with people so that I know, okay, I'm speaking about um, being open about mental health and really being vulnerable. So what does that look like as far as someone that's never talked about it and someone that's new to the idea of using it as a strength instead of seeing it as a weakness? And I really have to put myself into the shoes of other people and think about what they need. Because I find if I focus too much on what I'm going to say and what message I want to convey, it comes out a mess.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I've really had to learn how to connect with people outside of the stage and really get into networking groups and out into different communities and just connect with people and be with them and just listen instead
Mm.
of trying to be a voice. Sometimes I just have to sit back and be a listening ear just to see exactly what's going on in the world. And it helps me that if I'm on a stage in person or in a virtual event, I can really connect and take away my thoughts and anything that I really wanted to put out there and give people what they need in that moment. And it's
Yeah,
something that's not really easy, but it's evolving for me, and it's a craft, really.
it
It
is.
really is, like you said, it's not a job. It's a lifestyle to be an entrepreneur and a speaker, because it's it's really a lot of work to understand what an audience needs and how to connect with them exactly where they're at and not seem like this really high up individual that's above them.
Mm. And it's in the telling of stories that we connect, from my experience anyway. And it's that you can come up with all sorts of stats that X number of X percentage of entrepreneurs are struggling with depression, with anxiety, da 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 da. But if you put a human face to that, a human story, suddenly the people will go, oh, yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, I've been there. And you've got the audience with you. So I love the idea that you're doing this almost data collection. You're gathering in stories from other people, and whether you use those individuals or whether you make them as composites, those are then there to illustrate the experiences that you speak about in your program. Beautiful. Well, that's the thing, is life gives you lessons, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go talking to people and, as you say, you go listening rather than talking, you go listening to people and go, what are you handling at the moment? And if people feel safe around you, then it's amazing how people will open up. But you've got to make them feel safe first. And that comes from you being vulnerable. Oh, Travis, I'm loving this. I'm loving this. You're doing some phenomenal work here. Phenomenal work. As we're winding up, is there anything extra that you'd like to tell us that I haven't asked you?
Great question. I would say that it's just I think that it can be easy to see speaking as uh some kind of a privilege or something that you're chosen to do. And I found from just being with other speakers and getting on stages myself that it's really just about embracing where you are at that moment, where you've come from, and just allowing that to pour out into your work, whether you work a 9 to 5 or you're a business owner, because there's a story in everyone. And I think that really what makes it public speaking is being able to connect that story to other people's lives and be able to impact them outside of just what they hear every day, because we are bombarded with so many things that it's powerful, even on a YouTube video, just to hear someone and you're like, wow, I need to hear more of that person.
I'm looking forward to your YouTube channel. I really am. And again, once you've got it set up, we'll pop that in the notes so that everybody in the audience, you can go in and check out what Travis is going to bring up to us. It's those stories that are so powerful, so powerful. When you have the opportunity, audience, of sharing your story, don't hold back. You don't know who you can make a difference to in the audience. And even if it's one person that's impacted by your story, it's been worth it. It's been worth you taking that courage. And as Travis has said, it's not particularly a privilege for the few chosen. No, you have a story to share. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a book out. You wouldn't have an entrepreneur. You wouldn't be in business, because you've got something special to share, just as Travis has. Thank you, Travis. I've loved speaking with you, and for you sharing your from page to stage. Actually, you did it the other way around as well. But we've gone from page to stage. So for now, everyone, bye from us.
It's great to speak with you. Thank you.